Welcome to our next maple syrup history and beauty class. Maple syrup history, for those of you joining for the first time ever, the overall name of the class, the whole course that we do at Vandal Catholic St. Augustine's, beauty is the subset of this semester's focus in specificity, the good, the true, and the beautiful. On October 7th, 1916, we've talked a lot about the 19 teens, right? The First World War is November, or 1914 through 1918, if you talk about Armistice Day on the 11th of November. Or you can go into 19 talking about the Versailles Treaty. Talked about the apparitions of Our Lady of Fatima in 1917. Bolshevik Revolution is that same year. Talked a lot about the 19 teens. On October 7th, 1916, while the Battle of Verdun is still raging, the Battle of the Somme as well, Georgia Tech defeats Cumberland College 222 to nothing in football. Today's episode is entitled 222 to nothing. And we are going to talk about this football game and talk about why it's beautiful and what we can learn from the beauty of this. And where are you going with this? Well, welcome. Throughout this semester, we've done a lot of saints. Benedict of Nursia, Saint Sebastian, Joan of Arc. We've talked about great artists like Mozart and Ernest Hemingway. We've talked about emperors like Trajan. Talked about a lot of different topics, a lot of different stuff. John Paul II, recently his visit to Poland in 1979. Talked about Maude Adams, the famous 19th century actress. Today, a singular football game. Georgia Tech, 222. Cumberland, 0. After the first quarter, it was 63 to nothing, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech scores 63 in the second quarter to be up 126 to nothing at halftime. 54 in the third, and they take their foot off the gas a little bit in the fourth quarter. Only score 42. Only 6 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to finish 222 to nothing. That is the title of today's episode. What are some facts? These are courtesy of NCAA.com. An article appropriately entitled Georgia Tech 222, Cumberland College nothing, history weird facts. Well, that's the hyperlink anyway. It's kind of weird facts about this. 15. That's the number of turnovers by Cumberland in just 45 total plays from scrimmage. So 1/3 of their plays are either a fumble or an interception. That's not good. I mean, you probably realize Cumberland's performance is not good considering they lost by, wait for it, checks his notes, 222 points. That's not good for football. This is not a basketball game. This is not a football game where touchdowns count for 40 points. They lost 222 to nothing. It seems understandable enough. 15 turnovers. Okay, 1/3 of their plays. That's not good. They have 9 fumbles. Some guy named George Murphy fumbles 4 times. Ring.
Is that where Murphy's Law comes from?
Is that where Murphy's Law comes from? Excellent. Excellent. Brad, that is hilarious. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong, like George Murphy fumbling. Yeah, maybe. Oh, the phone is still ringing. Ring. Hello, can I speak to Cumberland College? Yes, admissions office. Can you please not just expel George Murphy, can you fire him? 4 fumbles. I definitely want him off the team. I'm not giving a cent to the collection campaign. I am done supporting this college unless you fire George Murphy. You don't fire students, you expel him, everything. Goodbye. He fumbles 4 times. 4 times in a game. This is ridiculous. Come on, man. Well, Cumberland throws 6 interceptions. So 9 fumbles, 6 interceptions. Our boy, George Murphy, throws 2 interceptions. He was like, it wasn't good enough that I fumbled 4 times. I got to throw 2 interceptions too. Some guy named Leon McDonald throws 4. What's the lesson here? Never trust an Irishman to play football. Leon McDonald, 4 interceptions. George Murphy, 2 interceptions plus 4 fumbles. Ireland, not good at football. Official slogan of, I don't know, of their country. 7 of those 15 turnovers are returned for touchdowns. Georgia Tech has 5 pick sixes. This is freaking brutal. One of those is kind of devastating in a game. We go to a Vandals game, the quarterback throws a pick 6. All of us in this room are great football fans. All the millions of people watching online love football. But if anyone doesn't understand football, a pick 6 is when you throw a pass, trying to throw it to your guy, it's picked, intercepted by the other team, and they run it back for 6, for a touchdown. It's already like, if a quarterback throws 1 or 2 just interceptions, period, in a game, that's not good. And 95% of the time, the other team having intercepted the ball gets tackled right away or whatever. Just a change of possession, turnover, right? Georgia Tech, 5 pick sixes. 5 times not only intercepts it, but runs it back for a touchdown. That's brutal. And 2 scoop and scores. That's when a team fumbles, other team recovers the fumble. But once more, unlike 99.9% of the time, they recover the fumble and it's under a scrum, under the pile, they fall down. They return it for a touchdown. So 7 defensive touchdowns. The final touchdown of the game came in the 4th quarter when Georgia Tech's Jim Setner intercepted McDonald and returned it 30 yards to the end zone to make it 221-0 before the extra point. These are all, again, anyone joining us now, facts, courtesy of NCAA.com, weird facts from this game. 1, number of plays it took for Georgia Tech to score first. After winning the coin toss, Georgia Tech elected to kick off. Cumberland was forced to punt, but the punt went just 20 yards and was returned for 18 for a net of 2. On the first play from scrimmage, tailback Everett Strupper took the ball on a left-end sweep and scored. I still have some more facts. Remind me before we begin to talk about, this is all in the preamble. Remind me to talk about Ty Cobb and Georgia Tech. This is going to be cool. Remind me to do that if I forget anyone in the class. Continue with the numbers. I'm just going to read the numbers, less commentary, more just numbers focus. There's still a bunch of stats here. 6, kicks returned for touchdowns by Tech, including 4 punts and 2 kickoffs. That does not include one of the weirdest plays in college football history in the 2nd quarter. After Georgia Tech scored to make it 105-0, Jim Prios kicked off to Cumberland's Googer, this guy Googer, no first name listed. Maybe they want to embarrass him, you know? Cumberland's Googer, who fumbled the ball. Then Priest, the kicker, recovered the kick and scored before kicking the extra point as well to make it 112-0. Cumberland is so bad, they fumble and let the opposing kicker pick it up and scoop and score. The kicker's not even technically a real football player, and he scored. Are they a high school? We're going to talk about who this team was. 24 total touchdowns by Georgia Tech that took 1 or 0 offensive plays. Georgia Tech scored 24 touchdowns in 1 play or no plays. Remember, they had 7 defensive touchdowns just in the course of the other team counting as one of their plays, right? 5 pick sixes, 2 scoop and scores. 10 of the 28 offensive plays run by Georgia that did not go for touchdowns. Georgia Tech ran 28 offensive plays, 18 were for touchdowns. So more than half the plays they ran, period, ended in touchdowns. Imagine, that'd be great if the Vandals did that. Hike, touchdown, scoop and score. There's no drive summary here. The Vandals went 79 yards in 2 minutes and 35 seconds, 11 plays, picked up 3 first downs, scored just 1 play at a time. 4th downs faced by Georgia Tech, 0. First downs made in the game by either team, 0. Cumberland either punted or turned the ball over on every set of downs, while Georgia Tech scored a touchdown every time. So no first downs made in the game. 0. Georgia Tech plays that went for negative yards. 63 points scored by Georgia Tech in both the 1st and 2nd quarter. 0 passes attempted by Georgia Tech. They don't throw the ball 1 time and score 222 points. All right, what are we going to do in the course of this lecture? Well, this is hilarious. First of all, it's awesome. We are going to talk about why This is beautiful. This is still part of the preamble. People watching on the video, you're about to have that awesome maple syrup opening entrance point with that beautiful maple syrup bottle and the sound of New York City traffic and the light flicking on. Next, I'm going to talk about just the whole deal. And then I'm going to talk about why it's beautiful. Because it is. There's something like a triumph of the human spirit here all the way around, maybe in a surprising way. I have reminded myself why to talk about Ty Cobb. Georgia Tech at this time is a powerhouse. They are coached by, please everyone note, John Heisman. Oh, wow. They are coached by the man for whom the college football Nobel Prize is named. The Heisman Trophy every year goes to the most outstanding college football player, basically the MVP of college football, right? I think the most recent winner, forgive me if I'm messing this up, I think it's Jaden Daniels of LSU. The LSU quarterback was the Heisman Trophy winner in the 2023 season. Past winners, Johnny Manziel, the kind of almost like reality TV star / quarterback. Did O.J. Simpson win the Heisman?
Yes, he did.
Oh, wow. Amazing. So there you go. Recently, and may God have mercy upon him, recently passed away too. O.J. Simpson, who, before all of the awful stuff with the trial, was a fantastic football player, a fantastic NFL player too. So, okay, he's a Heisman winner. Baker Mayfield, Tim Tebow, the outspoken Christian athlete, quarterback, Heisman winner. Georgia Tech is coached by John Heisman. They are legendary. Do not give me any of this nonsense. This is 1916, bro. Like, the guys from 1916, some of them are still jacked out of their mind. There's always good and bad athletes. There's always good genetics. Yes, fine. The training now is superior. The training techniques are better. Overall, the quality of college football has greatly increased. Fine, across the board with training techniques and whatever it is. If you compared 40 times from the 1916 Georgia Tech team to now, yes, it's gotten better. Football has evolved in that certain sense. But Georgia Tech is not only good at football, period. They're the kind of powerhouse of their era. I always think about the recently retired Alabama Crimson Tide football coach, Nick Saban, as being like the beau ideal. The Alabama Crimson Tide having won 4 or 5 national titles, or 6 even in the last 12 years. That's Georgia Tech under Heisman. They're the best college football team in America. Ty Cobb is a famous baseball player for the Detroit Tigers. Ty Cobb, some people think, is the greatest baseball player of all time. He has the highest career batting average of all time. Was incredibly intense / crazy. A lot of people thought he was a really bad, mean guy. Very famous / infamous figure. Watch Field of Dreams. They even lampooned that Shoeless Joe Jackson and the Ghosts playing in Field of Dreams. Cobb wanted to play. We told him where to go shove it. Everyone hated that guy. Cobb was a really intense competitor. The coolest thing I've heard about Ty Cobb, beyond how good he was as a baseball player, and he was fantastic for the Detroit Tigers, hit over 400 4 or 5 years. Remember, where is Georgia Tech? Where is the Georgia Institute of Technology? It's in Atlanta, Georgia. Cobb is from Georgia. And apparently one off season, Cobb shows up at this practice for Georgia Tech, Heisman's team, 19 teens. And Cobb says, I'd like to go run a play. And Heisman's or whoever's come on, dude. You're Ty Cobb. You're the man. You're MLB star already. You're a legendary athlete. You're very much, well known to a celebrity, maybe not as much as Babe Ruth, but basically, think about one of the most famous baseball players of his age. So they're just I'm glad you're here to watch the practice, Mr. Cobb. We're not going to let you on the field. Cobb's no, I want to run a play. Cobb goes out there, doesn't put pads on. He goes out with no pads. They do a halfback toss to Ty Cobb. The quarterback hikes the ball and just pitches it to him. Mm-hmm. Cobb is wearing no pads against the team that beat Cumberland College 222-0. He runs one play, goes around end, stiff arms a guy in the neck. He has no pads on. The other guy has pads on. Chokes a guy and runs for a touchdown. That is how good Ty Cobb, that's how good of an athlete Ty Cobb was. This team that we're going to talk about today, I bet you didn't see that coming, right? We're talking about Georgia Tech as this behemoth monster. They are 222-0. Cumberland College, not. We're going to talk about why they weren't exactly the worthiest opponent. I'm going to give you the whole story. But Georgia Tech, you beat a team 222-0. You feel like those D1 strong boys, farm boys and good, strong college football players are going to be able to tackle a stupid baseball player wearing no pads. No. No, don't get me started on Ty Cobb. Wearing no pads, going around the corner, chokes a guy and runs for a touchdown. Like stiff arms him like choke style. And that's the legend Ty Cobb. And welcome to maple syrup history on that note. All right, guys. So I have two more things I want to do for you today. We did that long, preamble, 15 minutes or something. That's the longest you've ever had to wait to hear that traffic sound and see that maple syrup bottle. I do declare, it's worth it. It's rated best intro in Catholic YouTube for a reason, obviously. So no apologies. But I want to do two things. I want to give you the info of the whole deal. And then I want to talk about why it's beautiful. Okay, so what is the background? Cumberland College, first of all, are guys who are getting stiff-armed by Ty Cobb in the neck, but are still a great team. Our guys are the Georgia Tech. What is their nickname? Anyone know? They have a great nickname. Bulldogs is UGA, University of Georgia.
Yes.
What is Georgia Tech? The Yellow Jackets. That is a sweet nickname. I don't want to get bit by a Yellow Jacket or stung or whatever they do, but Yellow Jacket's a great sports team name. That's John Heisman. That's the guys that are going to do all the scoring and butt kicking. Who's the other school? Well, Cumberland College. They are a Presbyterian school in Lebanon, Tennessee. They had discontinued their football program the year before. All right. But before you're like, oh, poor Cumberland College. Cumberland College was not bad recently. This is 1916. In 1903, in that year alone, Cumberland College themselves defeated Tulane in New Orleans. Who cares? Tulane, no big deal. But LSU and Alabama, wow. The LSU Tigers, Alabama Crimson Tide, football royalty. 1903, the small Presbyterian school in Lebanon, Tennessee, Cumberland College, had defeated Alabama, LSU, and Tulane by a combined score of 113-0. Now, this will give you pause. They score 113 in 3 games. Georgia Tech's going to score that much in a half of 1 game against them. 1916, going into that season, Cumberland College has discontinued its football program. But they were not bad recently, okay? Just 13 years ago, they had won a conference title, had defeated the likes of Alabama, LSU, Tulane, these schools in the South. That would be like the Idaho Vandals. What is 13 years from now? The Idaho Vandals had just won the national title in the year 2011. That's of recent memory, right? So Cumberland College, that's the background. Uh-oh, guys. This is a revenge game. Cumberland College had beat Georgia Tech in the spring of 1916 in baseball. By what score? What would make the football score poetic justice? Cumberland College had beat Georgia Tech by what score? It's perfectly congruent. Remember, the football score is 222-0. Cumberland College beat Georgia Tech in baseball by what score? 22-0.
Okay.
So Heisman's going to add an extra 2. John Heisman, our boy, the legend, John Heisman featuring John Heisman. He does his own songs. He's that famous. John Heisman is also Georgia Tech baseball coach. Cumberland College apparently had used professional baseball players to kick Georgia Tech's butt on the baseball diamond. Heisman is not happy. Revenge is a dish best served cold, ice cold. He's not happy. Cumberland College had beat his Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Now, I'm sorry for everyone listening in Atlanta on the campus of Georgia Tech. I've got so many fans there. It's insane. They're always trying to come to Atlanta. You can do maple syrup history in the football stadium. We'll sell it out. Georgia Tech loves me. I apologize to all the Georgia Tech people. I don't know when they became the Yellow Jackets. That is currently their name now. In some of these earlier notes of my research, I just encountered engineers. It's an engineering school. Georgia Tech, and here I want to give them true props. They don't have the same reputation of Caltech or MIT, but they're like that. They're a technological school, right? They're an engineering school. So Cumberland College had beat John Heisman's Engineers. I'm going to keep calling them Yellow Jackets because that is so sick. Yellow Jackets, props to you guys. One of the coolest nicknames. Cumberland College had beat the Yellow Jackets baseball team 22-0 in the spring while using professional players. Like, such a scumbag move. There's a funny movie where these like this Little League team, they lampoon the fact of like in some of these countries they have guys playing, you're supposed to play till you're 12 in Little League. They have guys who are like, 14 or 15 or something, right? They lampoon this where they have this like professional baseball player come and he's hitting like, boom, boom, boom home runs. And the umpire's like, are you 12? And the guy's like, yeah. And he's like, show me your birth certificate. And the guy pulls out a paper and crayon. It says, I am 12. And the umpire's like, it looks good to me. All right. And so these like I am 12 guys come and they beat them 22-0. Now the research said, it is speculated that Heisman may have deliberately aimed for a score of exactly 222 as numerically significant retaliation to Cumberland's 22. It's not speculated, it's 100% correct. I mean, like, the only question was, would time allow him to get to that number? No, this is 100% intentional, right? It's absolutely hilarious. It's the first time I say it, it's very beautiful. Oh, really, Gracjan? Oh, you're going to say, in the good, the true, and the beautiful, these true transcendental values, and blessed be God forever, that do pertain to God above all. You're going to say revenge is beautiful? Well, hold on. I can't wait to talk about, all of this stuff, and there's going to be a huge point to this beyond the rip-roaring fun that we're already having. I'm having so much fun. I did once, praise God, one of my most favorite classes ever in the fall of 2017. I was an instructor, a visiting professor at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I will always love the Fighting Illini. I love Illinois. I was fortunate there. My wife and I were there for 4 years really, 16 through 19. Right before I came out here, I did a class called Sports and Society. It was so fun. We talked about Olympic Games, a bunch of stuff, just sports and society and the historical overlays. So yes, I think it's obvious enough how much I love this topic. Although in this beauty class, we've talked about sports a couple of times, Bo Jackson here and there. It's fun to get back into that every once in a while as we are today. I'm going to talk about, yes, why it's beautiful, why it's hilarious. Now, Cumberland tries to get out of this game. They know it's coming. We beat them with 22. We beat them 22-0 in baseball. I am 12. With those kind of players, professional guys. What do these guys might look like? I'm thinking, the facts in this are kind of hazy, but guys who are like barnstorm, single A, whatever type guys. These are not Major League Baseball players, not Ty Cobb. If Ty Cobb choked a Georgia Tech football player for a touchdown, he's a baseball player. Imagine what Ty Cobb would do on the baseball diamond in his own sport, right? He would go nuclear. These are not MLB players, but they are still, college baseball players. Don't get me started on this rabbit hole. College baseball players are already incredible baseball players. I think even today in America, only 7% of kids who play high school baseball go on to college any level. Back then too, if you're playing college baseball, Washington State, U of I used to have a program in the 19-teens. You're a very good baseball player. But the guys who are in single A, these professional guys, while they're not major league, they're much better than college guys, obviously. And they come in and just do what you think. Boom, 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 lasers all over the field. Maybe a fantastic pitcher, who last year pitched five innings for the New York Yankees. He's AA, but I'm like, they know what's coming. They know, okay, Heisman is not happy. Remember, it's the same guy.
So he was the baseball coach.
He's the baseball coach and the football coach. This time, Heisman is like making a movie, a Terminator movie, This time it's personal. He's coming back for revenge. This has happened to him on his watch, to his baseball players. And he's going to try to get payback in football. Cumberland College wants to get out of it. Whoa, 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 whoa. We disbanded our program. Here's what Heisman writes to their athletic department. Ready? We're trying to get out of it. John Heisman, Georgia Tech football coach, when he writes to Cumberland College, quote, I hereby offer you the sum of $500 and an all expenses paid trip to Atlanta for your football team on the condition that you honor your contract by participating in and completing the Cumberland Georgia Tech football game. However, if the offer is refused, I shall be forced to demand that your school reimburse the Tech Athletic Department in the amount of $3,000 for losses from the projected net gate receipts. So, what a nice guy, or this is kind of like extortion. Heisman is basically saying to them, you guys promised to play us in football. They did. It was scheduled for a while. You know you're going to get beat down. We know it. I can't wait to beat you guys down. And I'm not even going to use NFL players. I'm just going to kick your butt so bad. You guys are going to get your butt kicked. And carrot and the stick. If you come, we're going to pay for you to come to get basically, publicly humiliated, tarred and feathered football style. We'll pay you $500. Teams still do this, by the way. 1AA schools will get paid by the University of Florida like $300,000 really to come play at their stadium because they need to fill out non-conference games. One of the most awkward, hilarious things ever. All my audience to go look up Appalachian State versus Michigan in the year 2007. Michigan is number 5 in the country. They pay Appalachian State, a very good 1AA school. We're 1AA here at U of I. To go to Michigan to fill the schedule, Appalachian State is supposed to get destroyed. Michigan pays them $500,000 and they lose. Appalachian State defeats them, one of the coolest upsets, 34-32, a last-second blocked field goal. But this still happens. So what is Heisman saying at Cumberland College? He's telling them, you guys are going to honor your contract. You agreed to play this game. We're going to give you, like I said, $500 to come to Atlanta. If you don't want to come, you owe us $3,000. You owe us 6 times the amount of what I'm going to give you. We're basically going to sue you guys. So you're not getting out of getting your butt kicked. He's basically saying, I will have my revenge if it's the last thing I do. Cumberland goes and plays this game. A lot of people say it saves the school from financial ruin. If they had to pay the $3,000 fine of that money, it could have they're a small Presbyterian college. Remember, Lebanon, Tennessee. Not bothering anyone. The model of integrity. Except when they hire professional baseball players to play in a college game. Yeah. People think, this could bankrupt them. This could ruin them. Oh, man. Where do I go next? Where do I explain?
The index is between now and 1916.
Right.
For figuring out what that $3,000 would be worth.
Right. No, I mean, the inflation is insane. Okay, so one more note before I tell you what Cumberland does. They're going to honor the contract, obviously. That's the point where we're talking about that. Georgia Tech at this time are in the midst of a 4-season record. They're in the middle that they'll have in the future of this. Remember, this is October 7th, 1916. 30 wins, 1 loss, and 2 ties, including 3 undefeated seasons. They outscored their opponents 1,611 to 93. So they're a very, very good football team. Let's make that very clear. Remember all the context now. Cumberland was good in 1903, recently dropped the program, beat them in baseball. Georgia Tech wants revenge because they use professional players. Georgia Tech's a great football program. They're the Alabama of their time. They're coached by the guy who's arguably the most famous college football name, and down to our day, the Heisman Trophy being named after him. All right, guys. Can't do it. Cumberland's like, can't pay them $3,000. In 2016 dollars, it's about $65,000. I mean, that's going to ruin your school, really? Maybe they should have paid the money. I don't know. But George E. Allen, he's selected as Cumberland's football team student manager. The administration, I don't know, goes to this guy, hey, you were the baseball team student manager. You want to grab some guys together to do the football team? So Cumberland College gets together a bunch of literally frat brothers and law students, not football players. George E. Allen finds a bunch of frat brothers. Maybe half of them are drunk. They're playing beer pong. They're doing exactly what they do now, playing beer pong with extremely loud music outside. The kind of extremely loud music. Hey, look at me, I'm a frat guy. Hey, look at me, watch me play beer pong. I can never make it, but really loud music. They're doing stuff like that. Frat brothers, and I mean, That's what I think too. You want elite athletes. I'm like, get the law students. You know, that's what I think. I'm like, I want guys who are great football players, take me to the law school. So Cumberland College is showing up to honor a contract. Maybe it's appropriate as law students. There's kind of legal underpinning here. We don't want to pay this fine. Cumberland College is a ragtag team of law students and frat brothers to play University of Alabama. That is the context I want all of you to have in mind before I read you what happens in this game. I already read you a lot of statistics, but we're going to read them again because they're just so interesting. I'm not going to read them verbatim with the numbers. I'm going to tell you the narrative of the game. It would honestly be like the University of Idaho. I don't just say this because I really like the coach a lot. I do. I hope we have Coach Eck forever. He's an amazing. I heard the best things about him, and he's done a great job as football coach. We all know around Vandal Catholic, Matthias Bertram, wonderful young man, fantastic football player. I'm not just saying this because I like the Vandal football team, and I really do, and I'm a fan. We have a very good football team. Last year we were in like the final 8. We were a very good football team. Imagine the Vandals didn't have a football team, like Cumberland. We dropped it. And also our maple syrup friend, someone who's often here, Ryan Alexander, who is a law student. Ryan Alexander is told by the administration, get a bunch of your frat brothers and law students and go play the University of Alabama. That's what's going on here. Ryan Alexander, I have no idea what kind of athlete he is. He's a really smart guy. Maybe he's a fantastic athlete. I've never seen him do anything like, never played basketball with him, whatever. Let's say Ryan Alexander happens to be an amazing athlete. Maybe he is. Most law students are not. Frat guys are not serious football players. Obviously, they want to party and meet girls, and they're not interested in the kind of training, whatever. They're going to play the best football team in America. This is not going to be good already. Cumberland receives the opening kickoff and fails to make a first down after a punt. The Engineers, or as I like to say, the Yellow Jackets, they score on their first play. Cumberland then fumbles on their next play from line of scrimmage, and Georgia Tech returns it for a touchdown. Then Cumberland, who are the Bulldogs, maybe the Georgia Tech's taking out some pent-up frustration too. They have this little brother complex maybe towards UGA, University of Georgia Bulldogs. Maybe they're like, I just see Bulldog and I go crazy. Hit that guy. He's a Bulldog. He's a Cumberland Bulldog, I tell you. Not Georgia. I don't care. Hit him. Death to all Bulldogs. The Bulldogs fumble again their next play. It takes Georgia Tech 2 plays, scores third touchdown. Cumberland lost 9 yards on its next possession. Georgia Tech scores a 4th touchdown, another 2-play drive. By the end of the first quarter, it's 63-0. And 126-0 at halftime. This is not funny, at the same time indicative of wow. Cumberland quarterback Charles Edwards. I don't know if he's actually a quarterback or he's a frat guy who's playing quarterback. Suffers 3 concussions in the game. Like 3 times he's carted off the field. This is how angry Heisman and his team is. Like, I can't stress that enough. Like, they're not just beating them in football, they're punishing these guys. They're killing these guys on the field.
Yeah, those helmets back then were really Mickey Mouse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, see, that's the interesting thing too. Like, a lot of people say actually the leather helmets back then were safer in some ways, really, because guys would not use their head as a projectile. Mm-hmm. A lot of people say a lot of the problems now with neck injuries and head injuries is guys have a false sense of security of the helmet protecting them, so they use like where you don't see the same injuries in rugby where there's no helmet because they actually learn how to tackle, and they're like, well, I'm pretty dumb, but I'm not going to like spear a guy in the chest because I'm going to protect my own. I don't have a helmet on. So it's interesting, with that. Like I've heard it both ways. Here's what someone writes here. As a general rule, the only thing necessary for a touchdown was to give a tech back the ball and holler, "Here he comes!" And there he goes. Like, Cumberland is not putting up any type of resistance whatsoever. From the Atlanta Journal, which I believe now is called the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the very famous, maybe some of you have heard of him, Grantland Rice, sports writer Grantland Rice, spelled literally Grantland Rice, probably the most famous. He's like a Cary Grant of sports writers. He writes this, quote, Cumberland's greatest individual play of the game occurred when fullback Allen circled right end for a 6-yard loss. Cumberland's best play is losing 6 yards. If the Idaho Vandals come out and the first play of the game of our season, they suffer a 6-yard loss, which is most likely going to happen you're not going to have a 6-yard loss on a running play. Running play most likely will go nowhere. I mean, a guy can make a tackle in the backfield on a halfback toss. That's a 2 or 3 yard. 6-yard loss on a running play, that's usually a quarterback sack. So a quarterback is sacked for 6 yards. Ooh, that's not a good way to start the season. That was their best play. After that play, they could say, at least we didn't fumble and scoop and score. At least it wasn't a pick six. If you want to know how Heisman is, how angry Heisman is, best quote ever. This is one of those Arnold Schwarzenegger quotes where I've said before, these purposely cringy dialogue that makes it so funny. Like the Terminator's fighting a guy and the whole apartment complex explodes and he breaks the fourth wall and turns to the camera. Well, I hope that didn't wake the neighbors. You know, after it's like the boom, whatever. Heisman has one of these quotes. At halftime, he tells his players, once more, remember, the quarters in order to get to 222 are like this. 63, 63, 54 in the third, 42 in the fourth. Points scored, 222-0. It's 126-0 at halftime. This is unimaginable. It's 126-0 halftime. Heisman, remembers that sting of these guys beat us 22-0 in the spring using pro players. He says to his players, quote, "You're doing all right, team. We're ahead. But you just can't tell what those Cumberland players have up their sleeves. They may spring a surprise. Be alert, men. Hit them clean, hit them hard." They're killing these guys. The quarterback has been 3 times on a stretcher with concussions. Heisman, I'm going to read it again. Up 126-0 says, "You're doing all right, team. We're ahead. But you just can't tell what those Cumberland players have up their sleeves. They may spring a surprise. Be alert, men. Hit them clean, hit them hard." Right? Win one for the Gipper. This is absolutely epic. This is so legit. Heisman actually, though, shows some mercy. Quarters are 15 minutes long. He agrees to have the third and fourth quarters shortened to 12 minutes each. They still get to 222 points. They go 63, 63, 54, 42. They probably would have got all 60s if they had full quarters like in the first half, not 3 minutes short, 6 minutes total. They probably would have got to 250 points. Oh, man. Okay. Let's see. Last point I'll make before... last point I'll make kind of here in a recap before talking about why it's beautiful and that kind of thing is the only comparable thing that I found in all of sports history is in 1992, Troy State, a school that I do know. I actually played summer baseball with a baseball player from Troy State, the Troy State Trojans in Alabama. We were both in Boise, but he's from Troy State. Troy State's awesome. They're a very good school in the Sun Belt Conference. I have no idea what DeVry University is. D-E-V-R-Y. DeVry University of Atlanta as well. On January 12th, 1992, so basically last week, I mean, very close to our time, right? You know, October 7th, 1916, that's the Wild West. Troy State versus DeVry in basketball. Troy State beats DeVry 258-141. They scored 258 points in basketball. What do they make? 6 billion three-pointers? I mean, like, it's amazing, right?
What was the other score?
258-141, which once more shows you how impressive our game is. 222-0, Georgia Tech and Cumberland, because they almost put up basketball points in football. I mean, it's just unbelievable. 222-0 in football with a shortened second half, 6 minutes less. Almost as much points as Troy University scores, making it 258. All right. The game ball had the score written on it as a memento. It was donated to the Helms Athletic Foundation by this guy, Bill Schroeder, this sports collector guy. Museum moves locations. In the 1980s, the ball is boxed, remains in storage. I mean, I don't know what you guys want from me online. You think I have the ball? I don't have the ball. Ryan Schneider, a Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket alumni himself, in 2014 purchased the ball at a charity auction for $40,000. And he donated it back to Georgia Tech. There's a reunion for players from both teams. This is freaking hilarious. October 1956, there's a 40-year reunion, as if they went through a war together. This is ridiculous. Like at the Battle of Gettysburg, they have an anniversary reunion to commemorate Pickett's charge. They're like, this is basically the same thing. In October 1956, a 40-year reunion held for both players. 28 were able to attend. One of the Cumberland players points out that one play saved Cumberland from even worse defeat. Had Cumberland punted as normal instead of running a sneak, the score probably would have been 229-0. So this guy says, yo guys, that was basically it. You guys are basically Ty Cobb, stiff-arming us in the neck. If we just gave you the ball, we're probably just dead, and it's going to be a touchdown. So it could have been even worse. Cumberland's football team eventually restarted, changed its name to the Phoenix, but the two schools have never met in sports since. I wonder why. Let's just call it a lifetime, forever, on that.
Why was the football discontinued at Cumberland? Was it because of the baseball game, some kind of...
No, I don't know.
And was the baseball game, like, when was that discovered and what happened? What was the...
I have no idea. Fantastic question all the way around. So basically now, today, college sports have become professional sports.
Mm-hmm.
With the name, image, likeness, those deals and that kind of stuff. Amateurism used to be taken very, very seriously in college sports. Look at Jim Thorpe, who, because he had played professional sports, talk about an amazing athlete. We could do a whole beauty episode on Jim Thorpe. By the way, he's Catholic too. He'd be a great topic for, Jim Thorpe. So many cool things there. His Native American heritage, MLB, NFL. Anyways, Jim Thorpe. You, sir, are the greatest athlete in the world, King Gustav of Sweden tells him in the 1912 Stockholm Games. Thorpe, has to relinquish a lot of his medals because he played pro sports. The Olympics, which are now 100% professional, it's not even funny, they're all professional athletes, used to be this kind of amateur thing. So back then, it was a big deal if you were caught with pro guys. I don't know if the sanctions made them give it up. I'm not sure what the reason was. I couldn't find that in the course of preparing this lecture, what the reason was. I just know they used to take amateurism very seriously. Yeah, if you played, what does it mean to be a professional athlete? To be, the best in the world? Well, not necessarily. To play in the best league? No, it means to do that as your job. So back then, if you played even a couple games in the summer for even the lowest independent professional team, but you got paid $30 per game, you're a pro athlete. You cannot, and I like that definition too. That's really cool. Because if we talk about people that are, only 7% of high school kids go on to play college, all the more so. It's hard to go play professional soccer in Uzbekistan. I mean, all those are desirable positions to get that. Even if you're making like, $5 a game, you can call yourself a pro athlete. So I like the definition. The NCAA used to be very much more stringent about that than they are now. Now, again, these college guys legally, if the NCAA get $1 million name, image, likeness deals, they're full-time professional athletes while being college students. So it's very much changed. Back then, that was not the case. 222 to nothing. So why is it beautiful, right? The good, the true, and the beautiful. I would say, I'm being serious, and let's number these. Let's just freestyle number them. I would say number one, all of us should approach what we do with a 222 to nothing intent. I mean it. Like, what does Matthew 5:48 say? Be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. Like, we should aim for perfection. This is now, the revenge part is funny and whatever, like, Heisman gets revenge. This is a job well done. Remember his kind of halftime, encouragement, hit him hard no matter what. I'm not kidding. Like, if you can go through the Bible and find so many times, especially St. Paul, in praise of sports, right? But we run for an imperishable crown. I do not shadow box. I run to win the race. But what does St. Paul talk about? Obviously, praise God. That to be spiritual athletes for Christ. Athletics, which I am the biggest fan of ever. I love sports so much. If I had to rank things in life, God help me live this list. I hope I put God above all, love my neighbors myself, as Christ says. I put people first. And obviously my job right now isn't being an academic writer, but like sports is up there, like number 5. I don't know. I love sports. Sports is like number 5 of all things I love in the world of like thousands of things. I love sports more than dogs, ice cream, sunsets. I love sports for their own sake. But number 1, we should approach everything we do, Matthew 5:48, spirit of excellence, like 222-0. That's number 1, I think. Like full effort, no excuses. Be perfect as your Heavenly Father is perfect. And like St. Paul, being spiritual athletes for Christ, we should have that kind of attitude in the kind of, Philippians 2:12, work out your salvation in fear and trembling, towards spiritual perfection, holiness, the universal call of holiness. So number 1, it's beautiful because 222-0 effort. Number 2, this shows us it's impossible until someone does it. Sports can push the boundaries of things. Nobody can score 100 points in a game. Imagine you go to Vandals, you're like, I hope they score 100 today. Listen, you moron, they'll be lucky if they score 40. They scored 222 points in a game. Now, it was against a bunch of frat guys and law guys, but they showed no. Oh, wow. And that leads to 3, maybe inspiring us to push past our own limits. This football game, like all things, can inspire us to push past our limits. Nobody can climb that mountain until that guy does it. No one can lift that weight until that guy does it. Roger Bannister, nobody can run a sub 4-minute mile. Oh wait, he just did. So I would say 3 things that are beautiful about this game. Number 1, 222-0 / Matthew 5:48 effort. Give your true best effort. This is what real effort on a football field looks like. Now, again, it's the subtext, funny, revenge for baseball, but true effort, which leads you to being this spiritual athlete for Christ, which is the above all point, the imperishable crown that we run for more so than sports stuff. And then in showing that it's possible, leads us to seek those, push our own boundaries. I'm really, 2, 3 points. I'm really making 1 point. I really can reduce this to 1 thesis, that this game shows us that we are to make the most of our God-given abilities in that universal call to holiness. Matthew 5:48, be perfect as your Heavenly Father is perfect, as much as Matthew 25, the parable of talents. The guy who had 5 returns 5, 2 returns 2. Oh, but you're a demanding master. No, make the most of your talents. And in that same 1 point that I'm making, once it gets done, once we see it gets done, it can inspire us to chase the beauty in our own life. I wrote this down once. Let me see if I can find this somewhere. It'd be good to read this. I'm reading something to you in a second anyways. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, here we go. Okay, the true meaning of sports. Okay. Ready? This is the meaning of sports, of art, that people will see something beautiful and good in flawed man, and in turn glorify him who is beauty and goodness itself. The true meaning of sports, of art, quote, that people will see something beautiful and good in flawed man, and in turn glorify him who is beauty and goodness itself. So seeing 222-0 inspires us to make the most of our talents, give real effort, and ultimately not just for sports, which I love, but a higher calling of being a spiritual athlete for Christ, the imperishable crown of eternal life. And 222-0, it's funny, it's hilarious, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to score 200, that scoreboard, which I'm going to have as a thumbnail of this video, it just looks crazy beautiful. It's as beautiful as staring at Mount Everest, Sir Edmund Hillary, on top of Mount Everest in 1953. It's just as beautiful as seeing Roger Bannister exhausted falling across the finish line, sub 4-minute mile, or as beautiful as seeing Ernest Shackleton through sheer will emerge out of Antarctica after being stranded for so long. We see something beautiful in athletic accomplishment. It leads us to the beauty that is God's. So I'm going to finish up with the legend of this man named Carl Schliemann. Is he fictional or non-fictional? I don't know. I'm just going to leave it out there. Is Paul Bunyan real? I don't know. I'm going to finish with the legend of Carl Schliemann and just read you about this guy. Okay. This is a guy who lives by Flathead Lake in a cabin in the Montana wilderness. And this is his story related to sports, making the most of your talents, 222-0 effort. Carl rose with the sun, sometimes before it. Prior to breakfast, he would run full speed up a 200-meter incline behind his house 15 times minimum. Completing what athletes would later call hill sprints, he immediately segued into a vigorous full-body workout that included push-ups, pull-ups on tree branches, usually wet with morning dew, the slippery wood aiding grip strength, air squats, and abdominal drills. Post-workout, he cooled off with a swim in the lake. Neither the current season nor the temperature mattered, and as far as Carl was concerned, the colder and the wetter, the better. Once this work had been completed, Carl would sit down to breakfast, eating, in his own words, quote, like a wild stallion. Once consuming in one sitting 3 vats of coffee, 8 pieces of bread, each one, all 8, smeared with huckleberry jam, some goat cheese, 2 glasses of milk, a few slabs like granite slabs of smoked meat, 2 apples, 2 cups of tea, 1 beer, and a jar of something he called sweet churned froth maximus buttermilk. Schliemann's evenings were spent hunting, brewing beer, and drinking beer. After 5 years in Montana in 1940, Carl added something to his daily routine. A new type of sports training sprung from his love of the great American pastime. This guy's an immigrant from Austria. Some people, especially foreigners, grow to love the game. Their immersion into American culture inevitably leads them to at least attempt a basic understanding. This initial spark lit the many complexities of the game, the strategy and the rules, and especially the minutiae, along with the visceral artistry of loose arms throwing at blinding speed and sinewy arms and hands whipping wooden barrels, this incoming blinding speed, the crackle of contact so sweet sounding, verifiable, bona fide honey crackle, often makes the casually interested become knowledgeable into fanaticism. It's the unique mixture of mind and body, chess paired with episodic, violent discharges. Carl didn't grow to love baseball, he loved it immediately. A primal sport, if any such thing has ever existed, a team sport, but in name only, truly the loneliest of all individual contests. One man attempting to throw a rock past a man holding a stick, trying to hit that rock with that stick. Competitive solitude, single combat, worthy of the Trojan War or King David. In an ideal world, the pitcher and batter would perform their duties in a windswept, near freezing, and practically unreachable part of the Gobi Desert near sunset. Each man striding to his designated spot with his weapon in tow, a true zero-sum game. One man wins, the other dies. The agony and the ecstasy, delivered in full measure each at bat. Carl's regimen was based on power and explosiveness. It would not be until a few decades in the 21st century that baseball trainers as a whole started seeing the benefits of Olympic-type lifting, of understanding baseball fundamentally as a power sport based on one man physically overwhelming his opponent. This approach had first come into fashion in the 1980s and 90s, and even then, because of the association with illegal drugs in baseball's so-called steroid era, it was often regarded with skepticism, if not outright rejected. Carl saw the benefits of this type of training and lived it in 1940. He did so without any supplements, save for gallons of homemade beer. He never touched the brew before workouts. Afterwards, he drank it like water. Carl had 2 goals. 1, pitch a baseball as hard as possible. 2, hit a baseball as hard and as far as possible. Carl was decidedly anti-fundamentalist. Fundamentals are for lesser, less talented men. Fundamentals have nothing to do with twilight showdowns in the Gobi Desert. This is where the men are to be found, armed with triple-digit fastballs and country-mile light tower power, especially in dead center. Behold the tense moments where 2 magnificent alpha rams fight head-to-head but on a narrow, rocky ledge high up on a rock face, with the only options being death or destruction of the other. And then go through further information about this guy. He gets really into this program that he does, taking a 2-pound ball out to 207 feet, which is unbelievable. A baseball weighs 5 ounces. He's throwing a 32-ounce ball, 207 feet. He then came in to 60 feet inches for full effort throws. Following some sprints, remember this guy did 200-meter 15 sprints for breakfast. This guy's absolutely nuts. He then came in at 60 feet, 6 inches for full effort throws. Following some sprints and push-ups to rinse away any pesky lactic acid from his arm, Carl hit the same 2-pound steel ball off a wooden tee with bats as heavy as 7 pounds. A baseball bat weighs 30 ounces, almost 2 pounds. He's a 7-pound bat. His favorite bat was 38 inches long, 5 pounds, 11 ounces. Carl hit off the tee for a long time. And he talks about phase 2, he goes into using a normal baseball and normal bats. During phase 2, he only threw standard baseballs, although he once maxed out at 477 feet on a standard baseball throw. That is throwing a ball from a football goalpost across the whole field, 360 feet, and like up into the bleachers somewhere. He did not only, although he maxed out at 477 feet on a standard baseball throw, he did not long toss during phase 2. Just worked back, worked on pitching, and then in phase 2, he also did hitting with a normal baseball bat. Carl set his tee against nothing but the wide open spaces of Big Sky Country and swung. Carl dropped absolute bombs. He hit line drives 350 to 400 feet in the air. Line drives. He produced shots that would be where they hit in a game 400-foot seeds up the middle, making the pitcher duck for his life. Before whizzing past the center fielder's bobbing head, he in full retreat, sprint back towards the fence before exploding into the wall like an artillery shell. The rarely seen ground rule double through the fence. When he wanted to air it out, to hit a skyscraping foul ball or two, he could approach 500 feet with little effort. And all this without 1 joule of energy supplied by a pitcher. And here's the whole point, the end of the story, the end of this anecdote. Remember, 222-0 effort. Make the most of your talents. Is this guy real? No comment. Carl knew a guy in Billings whose cousin knew a guy who knew John L. Barker along with Ben Midlock, would later on introduce the radar gun to combat excessive speeding on post-war U.S. highways. Barker had a few early prototypes laying around and agreed to test Carl's pitching speed. Carl's best fastball was clocked at 109.97 miles per hour. He sat in the 104 to 107 range comfortably and consistently. The men who watched this exposition begged Carl to take his talents public, join the bigs, become a legend, American hero, make Babe Ruth look overrated. Carl refused. The whole purpose of his training was to reach his potential, to exceed presupposed athletic limits. He'd done that. He never intended to compete professionally or otherwise. The entire exercise was one great art project, done primarily for the intrinsic beauty of the movements. Carl believed that to receive popular acclaim and earn money from his talent would in some way taint it. And so that was that. End of story. Is this guy real? No, he's a fictional character from my forthcoming novel that'll be out this summer. Thermonuclear Mirth.
Okay, I wrote all these notes.
Isn't that awesome? You have to go read the book now. So this has maybe been my favorite episode of maple syrup history of all time. I mean that. I'm dead sincere in what I said about those 3 points. I'll recap one more time as we finish out the class. And they're all like 1 point, one rambling point. 222-0 effort is making the most of your talents, whether Matthew 25 or be perfect as your Heavenly Father is perfect. And athletics are beautiful in their own accord. I read you that quote. I was quoting myself. I wrote, talk about arrogance. Quote, me. But about the true meaning of sports. I wrote that in my Hippo Lectures essay book about sports, that all sports, all art are about beauty, about seeing beautiful stuff like, look at that ballerina. Look how she moves on stage. That's beautiful. How much more beautiful is God that has given her a share of that beauty in her movements? Like all sports point to the beauty of God. And my character in this novel, Carl Schliemann, he is a guy who, as you saw, that's early in the book. The novel is done. It should be out either May or June. It's 900 pages exactly, and this is not an approximation. I said for the longest time about 1,000. It was 1,100 in the dry run Word document, but now the wonderful design team is put together, and I can tell you it's exactly 900, which is so cool. Like I like that so much better than being 897 or 902. It's exactly 900 pages, everything included. This is early in the book. This guy Schliemann, after doing this baseball stuff, and he's meant to be this kind of Paul Bunyan absurd figure in a good way. Like, isn't that a cool story? I mean, it's all made up. It's fictional, but it's really inspirational. Some guy, and by the way, he's old doing that. At that time, when he throws 100 miles an hour in 1940, he's 49 years old. So he's almost 50 years old, and that's the whole point. It's, again, you have to read the book. But that was fun, and I love that it's like hilariously, like, there's no way it's true, but way kind of like it's like a Paul Bunyan story. There is a sincere connection there to the football game we just talked about. Carl Schliemann is not real. Cumberland College is real. I think Cumberland College sounds more absurd. I think truth is stranger than fiction. I can believe a guy throwing 109 miles an hour. I mean, that's crazy. But there have been a couple guys.
Aroldis Chapman has the current record through 105. There's guys, it's very rare. If you throw 100 miles an hour, it's impossibly. Throwing 90 miles an hour is insanely fast. So, but 109, okay, someone scoring 222 points in a football game, please stop it. Please, when pigs fly, when hell freezes over. I mean, like 109, that's crazy, but I don't know. And actually, there's a video of a kid, baseball weighs 5 ounces. Some kid online, pitcher, when he was training, was throwing an underweighted ball weighing 2 ounces, and he threw it 110 miles an hour. Now, that doesn't count for the records. It's lighter, it moves faster, but still. So I can 109, even in that ridiculous story. And other stuff, when the guy gets up and does hill sprints in the morning, whatever, okay, he likes to work out. He eats like a stallion. Like, the fake story sounds more fake than the real story. So my last thing signing off is never ever forget, truth is stranger than fiction, source citation 222 to nothing.